was that little bit just made me happy enough to keep him there. So we get over 6 months, I found out I'm pregnant, right? And everybody's like, don't do this to yourself, right? Which I did, because the fourth child is his, of course. But, so 6 months in, I found out I'm pregnant, right? Okay? And I'm like, at this point I had already put him out, because remember he done punched me in my face now because I found out about somebody. Then guess what? I put him out and he moved in with her. But we were still communicating. And then, of course, once I found out I was pregnant, I'm like, I'm pregnant. And guess what this guy did? Come back. And guess who let him in? Me. Okay? So I let him back in, and we go to the first doctor's appointment, and the day after the doctor's appointment, he gets locked up. Okay? And everybody, especially my mom, she's so into church, she's like, this is a sign. I know that I don't want to tell you, don't do it. Just don't do it here. Don't do it to yourself. This is going to be your fourth child. You're already a single mom. Just don't do it. And I felt like that was the right thing to do. She was saying everything that I needed, and at that point, it felt like it was so good until I talked to him, because guess what? You have a collect call from him. And guess who answered? Me. And I'm like, okay, well, my mother said she's going to pay for it. I'm getting this abortion. I'm going to be done. Boom, right? Oh, he started begging. Oh, they real good at that. If you ever had an abuser, they real good at knowing what to say. Very good. And he was just like, and I feel bad. I'm like, okay, I'm a mom. He's going to be a dad. And I know how it feels to be a mother. So I'm like, this parent thing came in. I'm like, if he's saying, if he's saying he wanted, and I don't want to do an abortion, let me have the baby. And then he was like, I was like, but you might be locked up for a long time. No. And guess what? He was locked up the whole pregnancy. So I did the whole pregnancy by myself. And he didn't come home until probably like 3 months after the baby was born. But he done got sent out Pennsylvania, and I done already drove out there. I done already went to go see him, picked him up, brought him back home. I was working for this office that was able to get him an opportunity to get a job. This is his first job. Never had a job in his life. And he's like, he's older than me. So at this time, he probably was like 26, 27. And boom, get him a job. By the first paycheck, he was with another girl. I done found out he done cheated. And of course, the abuse is still there. He's never, every time I find out about somebody, it's an ongoing, I'm like, at this point, I'm just calm. Like, you can just leave. I'm over it. I got the strength to just get to that point to say leave, but I didn't have the strength to leave just yet, like permanently leave this man alone. So now we at this point where we got this child. So now we have a whole child. And I'm like, okay, we whole parents now. Now I got to co-parent with him, and I'm trying to figure out mature ways to do it, and it just led to us still being in these situations where we back and forth, the females, the abuse. And I'm like, okay, so this is going to keep being our whole story the rest of your life. And this is what I'm not about to do. And in the middle of this, he's getting locked up 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time. And I'm just there. I'm for everything. I'm calling him. I'm making sure he got money on his book. I'm doing all of that. And none of that still worked. And so we get to this last specific time that I just thank God for. Even though it hurted, I was hurt emotionally. I was really going through a lot of things, like mentally, my mental was off. I already had my children. It was a lot going on at this time. And I literally was doing nothing, no job, no sets of doing nothing. And then I had it in my head that I was going to start stuff, but I never started. And then this one day, I was working, I was working at Planet Fitness, and I couldn't go to work for a few days at this point, because now the abuse got real, because now my eyes black. Like black. And at first I didn't even see it. When he first did it, he wouldn't even leave out my house. I'm like, I'm calling the police. He's like, no, I'm not gonna go, don't call the police. I remember times when I called the police and he would hit me again. So this time I'm like, okay, he said don't call the police. But I had to, because I knew that it was time for me. And I'm like, okay, whatever he gonna do at this point, I'm gonna have to stand up for myself, because this is done. And at this time I don't even see that my face is black yet, because it ain't even black, it's just swollen. And everybody just talking to me, everybody like supporting me. I'm like, I'm really done this time. Everybody like, okay, well, let's just go and we'll just help her out this specific time. And it worked, because I looked at my eye and it was black, like so black. And you see my complexion, like black. Like that, I try and make up to see if the next day I would be able to go to work, and I couldn't, because not only was my eye black, the inside of it was red. And all I could just feel was the pain from him pulling my hair, and my body is hurting. And I'm looking at my son, because my son is in the bed. This is the son that we had together. And I'm like, this is what he wants to do. And then I started thinking about my mother being in an abusive relationship and how she had to get out of it with my father. And she told me the stories, and she was telling me what she didn't want to do. But I started thinking about my 4 sons. And I'm like, is this what I want them to do? Or do I want them to have a woman who abused them? Because guess what? My mother was one of those that got abused and then started abusing. And she had to learn from that. So I'm like, okay, this is a lot of learning and a lot of stuff that she had to experience in a little bit of time. Same as me to be 27, experiencing all of these things in this little bit of time. And I'm like, this is enough. And the first thing I did was drop to the floor. And I was just like, my knees was aching, okay? I'm already black. My head already hurt, but now at this point, I'm like, I gotta get down and just ask God. Because I did say it before. You know how many times you tell God, you're like, God, if you get me out of this, I ain't gonna do it. Yeah, I had them times before. But I knew this time when I got down, I'm like, I'm not gonna ask him that. This time, I'm gonna thank him for showing me this black eye, because this is what I needed to get out of. Yeah. And it was just like, in the first week, we had our little back and forth, and we was conversating, and it was a nice little situation, but I still had got him locked up. I'm like, you gotta do a little bit of time. I gotta show you that at this point that we can't keep going over this over, because the stay away order didn't work. And that's when I knew. At that time, mind you, we still have to communicate for our child. We're still communicating, we're still talking, but guess what? Within, 3 months, 4 months, I was like, I'm enrolling back in school. I don't know what made my mother was like, I need to rent out my basement. I'm like, well, I'm gonna rent it out. And then around the time I rented it out, somebody was losing their hair salon. And she was like, well, I'm gonna give you all of this stuff for $150, but I didn't even see what the stuff was. I had somebody go pick it up who was a friend of mine who ended up paying for it for me. So now I got 2 salon stations, I got my last table, I got all of this stuff for $150. I'm like, oh, this stuff could have been worked out for me. Yeah. Then I talked to my success coach, and he's like, well, guess what? You could get your associate's degree after this semester that I'm in right now. And then after that, because I'm doing a dual degree, then next year at this same time, I'll have my bachelor's degree in business with 4 children, my own business, and I'm still employed at the post office that I just got that job with. Like, all of these things just lined up for me. And then I was like, well, then now I need to get back to church, but I don't have a car. But then my refund check came through, and I just bought a car. I bought my own car, nice, clean, straight from the ocean. Like, it's just so many things that had happened in a little bit of time because I had got over a relationship though. That's it. And I was thinking, like, I kept asking God, what was I doing wrong? And he showed me, right? And that's just how I got to this point where I am today. And I'm like, it's so much more to the story, it's more detailed, but I just want people to know, like, it's hard. It was far from easy, as you can see, because I was going back. But at the end of the day, it's not impossible, especially if you have God. Like, first and foremost, like, if you put him up front, he will show you that you need to love him first. And when you do that and love him before anything that happens in life, then you'll understand, like, it's not that hard to be a human, you know? So that's my story.